Divorce was better than what I called marriage. I would have been ordained as a minister in the church, but my marriage was the setback. What would you advise me if I was your brother? Don't you think my punishment is too much for my sin? If you are in my shoe, what will you do? The Bible discourages divorce. What would you advise me to do? Should I wait for my wife to die so that I can be free, and then remarry? What do you think? After some time, maggots started coming out of my wound. The knife Jocelyn used to stab me was not ordinary knife. It was a knife prepared for those warriors in their place. Warriors in their place have their machetes, arrows, guns and other instruments of war soaked in a special traditional water to make it poisonous against their opponents. When all treatments failed, major surgeries were performed on the arm twice, but instead, it grew worse. Medically, I was referred to the US or India for another surgery, but where on earth will I get such amount of money required? Jocelyn's father could afford $12 million for my medical bill, but he will not. I took to faith and fate as I remained in Nigerian hospital where it was managed for 8 months. The worst happened when the specialists managing the arm suggested we amputate the entire hand to avoid further damage to other parts of the body. The maggots had eaten deep into my flesh and bone. I began to wonder, having given my life to Christ, why will He not show me mercy and let this cup pass over me? The pain was unbearable. Jocelyn moved my things outside my room to a shop attached to the boys' quarter when she could no longer endure the foul odor from my wound. My parents persuaded me to come home to seek the help of a traditional medicine man, but I can't go back to my vomit again. I will never go to Egypt to seek for help. I'd better get the hand amputated rather than going fetish. It was useless carrying out my plan of divorce again. My calamity was beyond what I could bear, hence I began to pray to God to take my life. In all my predicaments, Pastor Lama was with me. He stood by me like a true father. If any pastor was Christ-like, it was Pastor Lama. He paid most of my hospital bills. Eventually my hand was amputated. I was a liability to the church for 1 whole year. My church members also rallied round me in my trying times. The next time you see anyone trying to marry a rich woman to evade the stink of poverty, please share my story with them. It is better to be poor than stay in an abusive marriage. Where there is no love, wealth cannot cure poverty in marriage. Don't go into marriage if you see signs of future abuse. I saw the signs, but I ignored them. Don't ever force or encourage your children to marry anyone because of their wealth. Bad marriage is the best way to test run hellfire. My path to glory. I became a one-handed man. My wife treated like a plaque. Then one day, Jocelyn became sick and was admitted into the hospital. Her family refused to reveal to us what was wrong with Jocelyn, but she was drying up like a HIV patient. I stood by her all through. I prayed for her. For crying out loud, she is my wife. I was only suffering from emotional trauma. I didn't pay evil for evil during her sickness. I was not afraid of contacting her unknown sickness. I only prayed for her to encounter Jesus. I desire a second chance for her. God, make the sickness to turn her to you, O Lord. That was my prayer. The sickness grew worse and she was flown abroad for further treatment. 6 weeks later she died. This was supposed to be sad news, but it was the death that set me free from my bondage. I didn't wish her dead, but her death brought me out of the prison of marriage and slavery. My case became like In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw also the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. The death of Jocelyn opened another chapter of my life. Before she died, she had written a will willing all her properties, savings and investments to me because, according to her, despite her actions toward me, I was with her throughout her ailment. I brushed her teeth, feed her, cleaned and washed her clothes in the hospital. When the lawyer came to read the will, I couldn't control my tears. Jocelyn was worth over $100 million in property, savings and investments. Everything was willed to me. "Those who wait on the Lord will never be put to shame," I quoted. 6 months after the death of Jocelyn, I was joined in holy matrimony with Sister Eunice. I was ordained as a pastor in my church, and God had been using me tremendously in His vineyard. My story had changed from slavery to rulership. I went to bed very poor and wretched man, but woke up a millionaire. It pays to serve Jesus and hold unto Him even at the face of painful trials. God blessed my new marriage with a lovely boy whom we named B'Maisala. I am happy again. My wife Eunice is a praying woman and a lovely wife. Please, wife, submit to your husband no matter the position you may be holding. Don't be carried away by affluence. Pray before venturing into marriage. There is need to turn over a new leaf to those who starve their husband's sex. Is it food? Yes, give it to him. Pray for your husband. A woman that refuses to submit to her husband and decide to use him as a domestic servant is only digging her grave. Such cannot eat the fruits of their labor. God will heal every home suffering from emotional trauma. You as a wife can change the destiny of your husband for the better. Avoid pride as a woman. In case you are right in the web of deep waters of life and you want to call it quite, please hold on to God.